Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the Munir Muhammad Show. It's an honor to have you all join us today. I'm your host, Jamil Muhammad, and we have an exciting show for you today. I hope that all of you are healthy and safe if you're viewing this broadcast and taking the necessary precautions to take care of yourselves and your loved ones during these trying times. On the show today, I'm honored to have a person I consider a friend, a person who is doing a lot of hard work in the community. We've known each other for several years now. He is the president and executive director of Economic Strategies Development Corporation, my friend Alex Esparaza. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. We've talked about sitting down for a while, so we're finally able to make it happen.
We're here today. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. You know, looking around your studio, it's amazing. The people that have sat here, I'm very privileged to be here.
Hey, man, it's an honor, you know, and you know about legacy. I think one of the conversations we had, we were talking about when you were growing up and you didn't really get the summer vacations because you were with your dad. Modeling what he was doing and helping out, and you know, so I know you know about that relationship, and so it's an honor for me and of course all of the people at the studio here to continue on in my father's legacy, to continue this on, and it's something. And you know as well, you know, just being in the community, how important this work is. It's necessary to have people who are sincere and doing things in the community, and so you yourself could testify to that.
I sure can, and I don't want to lose this time to be able to say that it was an honor meeting your father. Yes. You know, we got to share a couple of basketball games together, yes, and being stuck by the food bar, you know, with him was always exciting. So yes, it was a privilege and an honor to have met him, yes, and to see what he has built and be a part of it now. And in terms of, you know, the legacies, very, very much agree with you in terms of what we have to continue to do, because our roots are very important to us. Yes, and I think that there's an honor behind that, and I think that's something that, you know, people respect.
Yes, sir, indeed. So what I want to get into is president of the Economic Strategies Development Corporation. We know that it used to be called the 18th Street Development Corporation. Just tell our viewers a little bit about the history of the organization.
So founded in 1976, actually those that are familiar with the Pilsen neighborhood can agree that it was founded during a time where there was a lot of violence going on in the neighborhood of Pilsen. And it was also funded by individuals who also funded other nonprofits, such as El Valor, which is one of the largest daycare and adults with disabilities centers in the Chicagoland area. So it's amazing just to see those people that were, you know, inspired to make an impact in our community by building these communities. The purpose for Economic Strategies Development Corp., formerly known as 18th Street Development Corp., was to bring jobs and training to the community. We knew that back then in 1976, a lot of kids were dropping out of high school. A lot of times they were being exposed to gang activities and violence. So ESDC, as the acronym, kind of stepped in to give young kids the ability to go into the trades. So we started with bricklaying and carpenters. We had a partnership with the union, so it was a 6-month training in-house of our office, where they were getting classroom training and then 6 months out in the field. Right. And the unions will respect the 6 months in the classroom. That kind of gave the student a head start, you know, into this union career. That, as we know, the trades right now are trumping through a lot, and now they're the kind of like the needy jobs that everyone wishes they had, because those are needed jobs, right? So ESDC was definitely in the front part of that time and era. We've sort of developed the organization to kind of become this incubator of small businesses, this leader of innovation and technology, the retention of jobs and businesses in the Lower West Side. And since I've taken over 7 years of being the executive director of ESDC, we've kind of taken that additional step. One of them was changing the name, right? 18th Street Development Corp., unfortunately, to a lot of people, you know, focused on us being on 18th Street as a geographic location, and that's something that I had to fight with because I was able to tap into state funding and city funding, and funding that I needed to be exposed to more neighborhoods, and changing the name was definitely a step moving forward for the expansion of what I really envisioned the organization can be. And I've always felt since day one of being at ESDC that we had a jewel at ESDC, being able to have the history of dating back to 1976 forward. We had an idea, or I had an idea that it could have been much bigger. And that was something that I took personal. I think that it was a lot of passion behind all of this to be able to see where ESDC is now. Obviously, individuals like yourself and the rest of my board members who put up with my craziness for allowing me to do crazy things and be able to move the organization forward has also empowered me to continue to move forward.
But I think it's exciting, and then at the concept, because we could appreciate the longevity, right? First of all, 1976, and you're still going. And the purpose of it, because we know that the trades, as we said, a lot of people, we're seeing a resurgence in the trades, because I think a lot of our communities, we had gotten away from it. It was either there was this push, either go to college or that's it, but we know that just as it was before in the 70s and the 60s, a lot of people in our communities flourished in the trades, and so we're trying to reintroduce that. And so I think everybody out there could see that, and in your expansion, that's the thing, because being a part of it and seeing it is that, the 18th Street is one thing, but you're doing projects up as close to the Illinois Medical District and all the way around, and so you talked about that growth and expansion. And I want you to talk a little bit about the steps and what that takes, because we have a lot of organizations that, start limited, but you had to engage people at the state level, at the county level, and locally. And so what was that process like of putting in the work for the organization to grow?
So I think the process, and a lot of people, it sounds cheesy sometimes, but the process is always the fun part. And for me personally, I actually, as an executive director of ESDC, I didn't make it down to Springfield into year 5 of me being at ESDC. Okay. When I finally made it down to Springfield, I had a whole, 500 pages book ready to roll out my playbooks of the things that I wanted to achieve. And when I finally went back to Springfield back in 2018, I probably spent like a whole month and a half worth of sleeping in hotels in down Springfield, because I had an agenda. I had goals, I had objectives. My time, in terms of my timeline that I personally developed, was at the moment where now I needed to branch out and start lobbying for my organization. Of course, as a nonprofit, it's also, we can't just have lobbyists at our disposal. It has to be us. So, but I think that the process of what brought me to that point was understanding what I could be doing at my own community. Understanding, and one of the things that I think a lot of people, miss opportunities in is being perfect at what you do in your own backyard. Because I think that because of what I've been able to do with my team and with the brand, I've been asked to go into different neighborhoods. I've been asked to take over different programs in other organizations that either have folded or that are in need of technical support of how we do it, our operations and processing and any kind of systems that we've created internally. But it has been the process. It has been us establishing, our reputation, establishing our relationships. One of the things that I remember someone telling me very early on is, don't burn bridges, and that has come a long way. And I'm glad that people sometimes are rough, in telling a young duck like me, coming in as a 23-year-old into ESDC, because had they been soft with me or very hands off, I would have seen, I could see myself making a lot more mistakes than what I did. You know, I remember one time, and I don't want to mention the name, but I got a call from Chicago Tribune, and they interviewed me, and do you have 5 minutes to get interviewed? I said yes. And I was just starting, and I took 5 minutes. They interviewed me. They got off the phone. A couple days later on, I get this big, email and say, hey, why are you talking to the media? You should ask for the questions in advance. Don't never answer questions over the phone.
Right.
It was a learning lesson, you know. Now, send me the questions in advance. I made mistakes, but I think that I was able to be very mindful that I don't know it all. That I got to surround myself by, one of the greatest leaders of all time, Barack Obama, said it himself, if I'm the smartest in the table, then we're wasting our time. So I surround myself with people who are very knowledgeable, who are very openly contributing to my knowledge. So that has always played a big role.
In these times, and we know that in the Black community and the Latino community, that the disparities are already there, okay? We know that as you work in your community, we've had conversations about the work that needs to be done specifically in the Black community, as a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, teaching us to do for self, and historically all the things that we had in Chicago, these neighborhoods and communities. We've seen that, kind of go by the wayside in many ways. And I know that through the Pilsen Court or through Little Village, to have a community represented by your own people is a wonderful thing. But the greater piece of the pie, or to fight for that equality and equity in the community, how is it? How do you take that fight to the mainstream? Because as you don't want people to label you. Like I'll say this. We do this media outlet, and the wide array of guests that we've had. But some people would label us only as a small news organization just to a specific community, but we air international, and I know that the work that you do extends beyond that Pilsen and that industrial corridor. So talk about what it is to, show people not to put you, in a bubble like that.
So I think it's, I've always tried to show, especially as I go to neighborhoods that have organizations that have kind of like the same mindset that I do, is how do we work in team, as a team, and what do I have to offer that they might need? And I think to be completely honest with you, it's always been a challenge because, in a lot of aspects, there's always a tone to something that is preset, and changing that tone is very difficult. It's very difficult. We always talk about the cliches of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But sometimes things that are not broken could add, use a little polishing, So I've always been with that mentality, and even internally, I practice what I preach in saying that, everyone in my team is welcome to come up with ideas, and not be, a lot of times people are afraid of coming up with ideas because now I'm gonna turn around and say, hey, well, it's your idea, run with it, right? Well, no, I think it's all about, okay, let's bring that idea to flourish. What do we do? Who do we bring on? And as an organization that had the name 18th Street Development Corp tied to it, I could tell you, being in the medical district, with, working with the development of the hotels there, going down to back of the yard and working with a little bit of the demolition right by 35th and Ashland, and then going into Bridgeport and Chinatown with the name 18th Street Development Corp tied to it, was always a battle. What are you doing here? Or why is that logo in this neighborhood? So I think that one of them, I think I proved my point. I think 7 years later of doing this, I think most of the executive directors or leaders or elected officials from different neighborhoods have, kind of figured out that I'm not coming in to take over.
Right,
You know,
right,
I want to come in as an asset.
Right.
You know, and one of the things that I've always prided myself in my organization is data.
Yeah.
And I love data. You know, I'm married to someone who analyzes data for a living.
Right.
So it's important in our household to know what we're talking about with facts.
Right.
So it's something that I want to bring to different communities. I mean, let's understand how your businesses are doing. How many people from your own community work in the community?
Right.
You know, how do we develop you know, we're in the middle of possibly another recession. How do we develop a recession-proof neighborhood?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, other communities that are not African American or Hispanic think of things like that.
Yes. Right.
So they do it because there's a benefit to that.
Right.
How do I get people to think like that?
Yeah. And you know, and I've seen you do this, and I know that you've asked even for feedback and recommendations on different organizations and different neighborhoods to partner with as well. But let's talk about, in this time of need, specifically around the COVID-19 crisis. So many people and small businesses are impacted by that. And I know that your organization has been very active in the community in the way of food drives and different things. So talk about how you've been giving back or supporting the community during this time.
So soon as this happened, I think that one of the things that we had just done in terms of data was we had just discussed in a small geographic area of kind of like the neighborhood of Pilsen in terms of empty storefronts. And we had done the data collection in November of 2019.
Right.
And we're doing that collection just because we wanted to.
Right.
We didn't know that COVID-19 was
Right.
3 months away from
Right.
happening.
Right.
So as soon as COVID-19 got reported out and you know, Governor Pritzker decides to, you know, put a stay-home order,
Right.
I got on my team calling these businesses that we had just surveyed
Right.
to see how they're doing. So
Right.
the way it went is that the average business in Pilsen, so we were targeting bars, bakeries, and restaurants.
Okay.
We have 113 in the geographic area where we were doing mapping or data. And the average employee amounts per business was 10 prior to COVID-19.
Right.
During COVID-19, the average employment per the 113 was 2.
Wow.
So we had 680 jobs in a week after we had 131.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so we lose that 80% of
Right.
you know of our jobs in the hospitality industry,
Right.
if you will. We needed to be able to have, you know, something for them. I've always said it, and I'll take the heat for it, but I always knew that grants and loans have a lot of red tape associated with this,
Right.
especially for our communities. I know that the quick response from the SBA and other agencies, you know, putting something forward for our small businesses was going to take a long time to hit their bank accounts.
Right.
So when they said 15 days for a loan, hey, you know what, the shutdown is for 15 days. Can you guys hang out for 15 days? And everyone's like, man, we'll barely be able to hang out for 15 days. I already knew it was not going to be 15 days.
Right.
So what can we start doing? So one of the things that we developed right away was a food pantry. Mind you, we're an economic development organization.
Right.
We don't do food pantries.
Right.
We don't do toiletry packages for the homeless. We don't do toiletry pantries for anyone. We don't do little loans on unregistered methods to businesses. But we were pushed into this whole new scenario.
Right.
This is the new environment we're in, and we have this 45-year-old organization who has the means, the connections, the energy to be able to step up to anything that comes our way to defend our small businesses, our constituents. So I'm very happy to announce that we've had 7 food pantries. We've fed over 3,000 families. We've given out over $54,000 worth of free food to neighborhoods in Pilsen, Chinatown, the East Side, which the East Side is borderline Chicago, Indiana. We have 2 more coming, one in Little Village. We have another one in Gage Park, way outside what 18th Street was.
Right. And I think that that responsiveness endears you, because you also, part of that, there's a Chamber of Commerce wing, you know, there's workforce development. So the organization has many hats. And so, and then in addition to it, in Pilsen over there, I think that community has, I think, the largest number of summer festivals practically in the city, I mean, going through there. And so that's a lot of impact in that community. And so what has the response been from the residents and from the business community when you all have been out there?
Well, I mean, for one, we're actually guilty of having one of the largest festivals in the neighborhood.
The
Mole de Mayo.
Yeah.
Mole de Mayo brings in, last year we were hitting numbers of 140,000 people on a 2.5-day event.
Right.
We last year we celebrated our 10th annual, and we want to believe that that's an economic engine for the vitality, creating the vitality of economy to our neighborhood, right? I mean, our personally, our event is in the heart of Pilsen, and I think that what businesses, I think, will realize is the importance of adapting. It's the importance of having your books in order, right? I mean, the PPP could have been a mess or is a mess, but it also showed a lot of people that you needed to have your books in order to be able to do a quick application and submit. We ESDC, you know, as an economic development and advocating for businesses, we've done hundreds of assistance, you know, handling to our communities to apply for those applications. And sometimes people don't have, you know, 941s. They don't know what W-2s are, and or they were paying each other cash, and there's no W-2 records of payroll. So it takes a lot of education. And in terms of events, we have 11 events in Pilsen. I mean, it's a lot of events, and these are this events shut down the community. So and it's in the summer. So the 11 events for a 3-month summer. You know, so it's a lot of activity, and I think that for a community that was getting used to having that kind of presence and that kind of economic impulse from the events, well, we're up to something where I don't think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I don't. It's. I mean, it's hard to recover from that, you know, and this is gonna be a long process and a long journey back. And I know that you all historically have helped people complete grants, and I know that even now these small businesses, you're kind of directing them and walking them through processes, but you're an entity yourself as well, you know, and like I said, so that impact is there, but I think it's a great job that you're still able to do things in a community. So
I mean, in order for us to be able to help others, we got to make sure we're healthy, you know. So it takes due diligence on our end. We have exceptional, you know, staff that leads the help, and then it falls on me to make sure that that our doors continue to stay open.
Yes, that's one thing we pride ourselves on. If the people call, you got to be here to receive them, right? So, okay, we're going to take a quick break and come back, okay? All right. All right, we're going to take a quick break and come back on the other side with more conversation with Mr. Alex Esparaza. We'll be right back.
The Munir Muhammad Show is brought to you by ComEd. For tips on managing your energy bill and helping the environment, call 1-800-EDISON-1 or visit comedcare.com.
ComEd's Smart Ideas presents the power of energy efficiency. Altogether, you have saved over $700 million, all because you took part in our energy efficiency programs, like our central AC rebates, fridge and freezer recycling, and lighting discounts. The small changes you've made to be more energy efficient really add up. The math is easy. ComEd's energy efficiency programs equal savings for you. Learn more about energy efficiency at ComEd.com/home savings. ComEd, powering lives.
It is important, in particular for African Americans, everybody, but for African Americans to ensure that we are counted in this census. It impacts our redistricting. It impacts the amount of money that we get. And it has a profound impact on educational issues. Socrates said this a long time ago. He said, if you always do what you've always done, you're going to always get what you've always got. That's the definition of insanity. But hold on. I got a deerism too. That means I made it up.
Yes, sir.
In order for you to get something you never had, you got to do something you never done. And this is where we're at in 2020 with this census. It's time to do some stuff we never done.
Eat and Run Chicken and Fish has the only chicken you can reheat and eat. It's good as mother's and better than the others. It is the chicken even mothers love. We've been serving the community for over 30 years. We cook with 100% vegetable oil and are open 7 days a week, including holidays. We're located at 87th and Hermitage. Contact us at 773-429-1812 for your takeout order, or let us provide all your catering needs. For the best chicken of your life, it's Eat and Run.
This portion of the Munir Muhammad Show is brought to you by East Lake Management, innovative solutions for building communities of the future today.
Assalamu alaikum, and we are back. We're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Alex Esparaza of the ESDC. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about, we saw during the break, Commissioner Dennis Deere, who's the commissioner's driving as far as the census. I know that you're heavily involved in that, and we promote it. And, you know, there was a lot of momentum, a lot of communication about the census, and then the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, kind of broke out. And wanted to talk to you specifically because I know in the Latino community, there's a lot of different apprehensions, whether it's the undocumented population or people more apprehensive about filling out stuff, just especially under the current executive federal organizations and stuff. And so just talk about the importance of the census and some of the challenges that are specific to the Latino community when completing that or getting people excited about completing it.
Well, I think, as you mentioned, the pandemic did ruin a lot of the things that we had going forward. And I say we because I'm one of the Count Commission commissioners for the state of Illinois, and actually we are the only state with a commission. And former governor appointed me to be one of the commissioners. And one of the things that has always played out was as soon as our president decided to mention that, you know, immigration status question was going to be included in this, it created a pandemic in itself, right, before COVID-19. And what that really did psychologically to the census was it started allowing for questioning of should I fill this out? Is this something that they're gonna come and hunt me afterwards once I'm done filling it out? You know, move forward to current, and because the commission, as commissioner, we started working on the census back in 2018. So move forward to April 1st. Well, that question is not there, but the panic that it generated, you know, is still there. I mean, and I say it's still there because I log in every single day to the Census Bureau to see the results in brown and black communities or heavily, you know, undocumented communities are very low turning out. You know, so I think the purpose of you know, scaring the masses worked. I mean, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I want to talk about that because, and I know because Chicago has a large undocumented community that's not just Latino. We have a lot on the north side too, from whether it's from Africa, and of course, so that population, the whole undocumented community, I know that specifically the Latino community generally, for lack of a better term, wears a hat for it. But you're talking about impacting a lot of people here. You know?
It is. I mean, you know, for every person that we don't count, it's what is it, $1,600 a year.
Yeah.
You know, you don't count a family of four, you know, and it's every 10 years, right? So you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially out of neighborhoods, out of, you know, not only is it the local, but I mean, let's talk about what's going on right now with the pandemic. We need access to healthcare. We need access to better clinics. We need more resources for our schools. I mean, how many schools are having problems with keeping kids educated through, you know, with technology?
Right.
And all of that trickles down to the census.
Right, right.
So I think it's for lack of, you know, connectivity right here, you know, the pandemic should give a wake-up call to a lot of people to fill out, because we need it.
Yeah, and I think what the pandemic has done, the existing disparities, they've magnified them.
Oh yeah,
They've magnified them.
I agree.
And so when you talk about it for the school and the technology as far as the divide, the access to broadband access, you know, in some communities, and it happens to be the communities that are most in need as well. And so that is the one thing. Now, we've talked about it on this show a lot, that this pandemic has caused us to kind of reorient our thinking. You have to look at exactly, you can't be as dependent on certain things as you used to be. I mean, we have to learn as far as our groceries, where we eat. You know, you see the things with the food plants, the meat processing plants that are closing down and things like that. The lack of availability, you know, of certain essential items. And so it's really caused us to kind of stop and think about what are actual needs versus wants. And, you know, kind of get back to basics a little bit.
It does. I think it's a wake-up call. And I think that those that can make an impact during this time, I think, is when we wake up and make an impact. And I think, personally speaking, and part of it, you know, I alluded to earlier with the food drives.
Right.
The food drives, we're not doing them because, you know, because we want to.
Yeah, right.
You know, we turn a lot of people away because there's a need.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about the programs being cut back, you know, every single year, you know, year after year, somehow the social services get dried up more and more and more.
Right.
But then, you know, national defense keeps going up.
Right.
You know, it's stuff that, you know, trickles down to your neighbor in your own block. You know, and I think that that's something that this has bring us to light. You know, I think understanding that the disparity that exists in our communities, and just understanding, and it doesn't take a lot of people to understand when you go into more affluent neighborhoods, more upscale neighborhoods, where they don't know what a shortage of toilet paper is, or hand sanitizers are, because, you know, they are willing to pay more money, or they have a lot more influence of certain things. So I think that you see it a lot, and you're seeing it even more right now through the census, because neighborhoods that are, you know, even in the Chicago area, if we break down neighborhood by neighborhood, every single neighborhood that is the majority African American or immigrant communities, we're the lowest. You know, so it continues to show, but I think we as residents of our neighborhoods, I think we have to step up and show up and try to do our best. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's only to our benefit, to our children and the children of our children, to be able to reap the benefits of what we're doing now.
And I think you have to, if the process exists and you can get funding, whether it's through the census, it has to be there. But I think that such a level of apathy has taken over in the community, because it's I think the return on investment sometimes doesn't always, that equity isn't felt in our communities. And even through the COVID-19 pandemic, you see the how it's become politicized, and there are people struggling, and this is it. Regardless of how it started or anything like that, some people are being affected. Those people, whether it's pre-existing health conditions, and we know that those thrive predominantly in the African American community, and the Latino community, and the lack of access to health care. And so all of these things are plaguing us. Many people, I know the news, the narrative on the news, and I know, the parties and the things that you see, people are outside, but, a lot of people at the same time can't afford to shelter in place. There are a lot of people who may be in a 2-bedroom that have 6 people there.
Right.
Many people who have to be outside in order to go to that job at the fast food place, at the restaurants, and things like that. And so young people, you got to look at the narrative that put out there. Remember, I know when it first started, first thing we heard, okay, it wouldn't affect African, well, I know everyone says that, I'd say black people, it wouldn't affect black people, right? Then they say it wouldn't affect the young people, right? And so, they're like out there, in this. And I know as far as not taking it back to the families and stuff, but I see on the north side, I see the softball games, I see the parties outside, I see other people going around, and that narrative isn't out there in the same way. And so whenever it's our communities, it's seen in such a negative light. But I can tell you that there are people that I know that whether they don't have air conditioning, so depending on what the environment is like in the house, they might stand outside. You complain about people being at the corner stores and things like that. Well, if you remove all the grocery stores, that's where they're going to go to get certain things too. And so what I always highlight is that sometimes the media and the overall narrative shows our people in such a disparaging way, but the pre-existing conditions contribute to that, man. And so that is why what you're doing, and it's a lot of organizations, this has been a rallying cry because you can't hide from it, now. But we don't want it to come so politicized that it just becomes sound bites and narratives and the people still aren't getting help.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it very well. I think that the message that we get out of our communities, especially through the media, has always been negative, right? And even in Pilsen, I mean, in Pilsen, we talk about, a shooting here, it's just as bad as the 90s. Well, it's not as bad as the 90s. In the 90s, there was no Facebook, so now everyone gets on social media. I'm able to know what's happening across town, and it's different barriers that take into affect the way that the narrative is being told. And personally, I think for an organization like ESDC, us taking, we have actually a newspaper called the Pilsen Court, and the Pilsen Court is an organic, newspaper. But the twist to this, and this is shout out to Diana and Jaime from my team who developed this newspaper. But the purpose of that newspaper is tell positive stories. Only positive stories. You would think that it's difficult to get negative stories to come out. I mean, there's tons of negative stories that we're saying like, no, we're not publishing that. No, we're not publishing that. Because I think that we have to be preachers of the good in our communities, because there's a lot of good in our communities. It just doesn't sell. I've always had this thing. My dad would always, I would always ask him like, Dad, you don't watch the news at night. He's like, no. He's like, they tell you, hey, so-and-so killed so-and-so. Hey, that person just did this. Hey, that person just did that. Have a great night. How am I supposed to have a good night? So, that's...
and you're right. It is overwhelmingly negative, but we become desensitized to it too. I mean, and when you look at that, all kinds of negative drama sells, but there are people doing a lot of good things in the community. And that's one of the things what we try to do here is bring those people in. We've had a number of people from our organizations and small businesses to come highlight some of that, because you need those positive inspirational stories. You need to see positive images of what people are accomplishing so you can model that behavior. And I'm glad that not only do we have that avenue, I'm glad that what you're doing with the paper there, because it's important that we define and tell the story of our own communities.
I agree.
And that's so important. And I know that we're we're winding down a little bit, but what I want to do is such an important thing that you talked about is the workforce development and the focus on the trades. And because with the youth now, we know that, Alex, the reality is that even if we are in remote learning for 6 months, we know that all of our children are not going to be in an environment conducive to remote learning.
Right.
You know, we know that some of our students, even in high school, the ladies might get discouraged in that process. And so we know that there's a need for tradesmen. We and I'll tell you, especially, and I'll tell you in our community, when you're trying to find a plumber now or a carpenter and things like that, there was a generation of either older gentlemen, and it's hard to find people who are replacing them.
Right.
And so I think that's important. But how were you able to forge a relationship with the unions and get that partnership for them to take a look at the people that you were training?
So I think, for one, it was kind of easy for me in terms of going back to our funding days.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned in the very beginning, that's how ESDC started.
Right.
And you were right. You mentioned it earlier. Even I graduated from college 10 years ago,
Right.
12 years ago, and one of the things that I remember my high school teachers telling me, hey, anything below a bachelor degree is a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Well, I should look them up because they should come and pay my student loans.
Right.
But, the truth of the matter is, it is 100% nothing like that.
Right.
I mean, there is individuals that are by far more, savvy and useful than I could possibly be sometimes. So, what we are doing is we're bringing a carpenters a school into ESDC, as well as an electrician school into ESDC. We're revamping the organization to be able to bring workforce development. What we're doing is, even though as we talk about college, we want people to continue their education. We want them to feel like anything below college is not a failure.
Right. Exactly.
And there's an opportunity for someone to make a very successful life in different trades.
Right.
And I'm focusing on the carpenters and the electricians, but it could be the same thing for a lot of more certification programs out there that are not in the trades necessarily and on construction, that are in cybersecurity and other things that they can do that don't require 4 years of $100,000 of student debt. So we're bringing in these two trades to partner with us, and we're targeting students between the age of 16 to 24. One of the things that really is upsetting is when we were negotiating with different trades, union trades. One of the challenges was, a lot of the people in your community don't have the soft skills. And I've always wondered what soft skills was, you know. But what they were referring to was literally people showing up on time, knowing how to dress for your interview, bringing the right tools to the job. And that gets someone like me mad. You're basically calling our people stupid.
Right.
So, hey, I don't want to work with you. You're not, that mentality of failing or of neglecting, or because my people are going to be behind already, you want me to spend an additional week and a half with them just to tell them what shirt to wear?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to be able to be part of our students, be part of, be part of their learning, not just come down and have this image of someone always telling us what to do.
Right.
One of the things that is going to set our programs aside is that the two trade unions that I partner up with, we are going to be able to bring those students back one day every 2 weeks to teach those students that are going through our program how to be project managers, how to be foremen. So we're not just sending low grade, bottom line individuals, but individuals could potentially go and start their own electrician company, go and be their own boss somewhere. So we really do want to build leaders in our community, and a lot of times leadership starts by leading themselves to success. Doesn't necessarily mean leading a whole company. Doesn't it's just mentally strength.
Absolutely. Not only doing that for yourself and modeling that behavior, but when you give a person that pride, that drive of self-worth, they can that success becomes contagious. And so we'll do that. Hey, we're going to take another break and come back, okay?
Thank you.
All right, brothers, we'll be right back. We're going to come back on the other side with a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This portion of the Munir Muhammad Show is brought to you by Ariel Mutual Funds, where slow and steady wins the race.
Searching for a restaurant that serves delicious home-cooked meals at an affordable price like your grandmother used to make? Well, the search is over. Stop by MacArthur's, the new talk of Chicago. We offer a warm atmosphere with friendly service and excellent meals ranging from carry-out, dine-in, or catering for your special events. MacArthur's is open 7 days per week from 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. Come visit us at
5412
West Madison Street or call us at 773-261-2316.
And we are back. And this, as we begin to wind down, you made such good points as far as the trades and what you were trying to do, and really how people see our youth in our community, and they always put us down at the bottom, but we know we've seen the evidence of our people when they get an opportunity, the success that they can have. And I want to kind of transition as far as your organization. I know that right now there's a lot of uncertainty around the COVID-19 pandemic, but what are some of the things that you hope to accomplish in the next year or so that you are working on prior to this pandemic?
So one of the big announcements, and something that I've been working on in lobbying for in Springfield was relocating our office. So, and actually we were going to get up and leave our current office into this new humongous space to be able to have programs and develop technology and develop some kind of like kitchen display where we could bring restaurants and talk to them about opportunities with them maximizing their kitchen and stuff like that. So as a little update, the office is not gonna get, completely relocated.
Right.
The office where we're currently located is gonna be turned into this center for the trades.
Right.
So it's literally the offices are gonna be one block away from each other, but one of them will hold the trades. The other one will hold our headquarters, as well as the new programming in terms of technology that we look to blend in. But I think it's very exciting because, for one, the organization is run by all minority individuals, people that have the mentality of, succeeding amongst each other, and I think that has to have some kind of weight to it, because it does have weight to it in other, ethnic groups.
Right.
And I think we need to take pride in that. I think that there's opportunities for us to unify forces with various organizations across across different neighborhoods, and I'm very excited for what we what was supposed to be 2020.
Right.
Now it seems to be getting pushed to 2021, but nonetheless very exciting to see what comes out. I really hope that getting out there like this show here brings a little bit of attention to those individuals that want to be a part of something for themselves.
Yeah. And and I have to say this as well, because especially for our viewing audience out there, that I know personally that when you've had meetings or set across there, there's people from all kinds of communities, and so, but with that, and what I love, now I love this for my own community, I just wish we would do it more. You don't apologize for wanting to help your own community. And no one should. But I think sometimes, people get apprehensive or think that that's selfish, but you have to take care of your base of where you are in order to go out and branch anywhere else. And so sometimes we lose a sense of that. But what I respect specifically is that you have to advocate and fight for your community. And I know that your willingness to partner across with different organizations, with different people, your mentorship in a lot of ways, you're very accessible. I'll say that, and I know almost to a fault, because you have so much going on. But just talk about the importance of being able to be proud of who you are, but still working with other communities.
Well, I mean, for one, Pilsen, coming from school into Pilsen, Pilsen, I'm Mexican.
Yes.
And they kind of brought me into Pilsen that was, the stigma of it was Mexico, right?
Yes.
There's murals everywhere showing the history and the honor of the community. And also just, the fact that I am a prideful person, but I am also a fighter for the person that has always been looked down upon.
Yeah.
I take more pride in helping the person that is in need than helping that someone just looks like me because it looks like me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I pride myself in knowing that I fight the fight for those people that are overlooked.
Yes.
So it's exciting. It's exciting for me to be, with ESDC. I've said this many times. I'm very happy that I'm the head of ESDC, because I'm not just someone that grew up in a gold environment.
Right.
My mom works in a meat factory. My dad is a drywaller.
Yeah.
When I fight for the jobs for those people that I'm referring to that are looked down upon, I'm fighting for my own parents.
Right.
So it's personal.
Yeah.
It's personal, and I take pride in that. I take pride of where I came from, and be sitting here is their hard work.
Yeah.
So there's something there that where I feel, indebted to their work, and I wake up every day, and every day I look at myself in the mirror and what can you do better?
Yeah.
So.
And there's nothing wrong with that, man. We're taught that if you don't have a conscience, then, you can't be taught. And when you know that people have sacrificed and invested in you, you have to reciprocate in some kind of way or model that behavior to continue the fight. Because freedom, justice, and equality are the pillars of civilization, and we have to make it more than a want. We have to bring it into fruition, and so we have to do that. So we went the whole show, but we didn't tell the people how to get in touch with you, man. So make sure that you tell the viewing audience if they want to call or go to the website how they can get in touch with you and learn more about the organization.
So to get a hold of us, visit us at esdcchicago.org, esdcchicago.org, or call us 312-733-2287. 312-733-2287. You can find information about potential grants or loans for your business, as well as jobs opportunities. If you wanna receive more information of the food pantries that we're doing around the Chicagoland area, visit us. Thank you.
Okay. And man, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. I know firsthand of the work that you do, not only in your community, but throughout Chicago, and I certainly appreciate you.
Thank you for your support.
Oh, no, man. And you're going to have to come back again, all right?
I will.
All right.
Sure will.
Good, good. Okay. Brothers and sisters, I wanted to say thank you for tuning in. And if you want to learn more about CROE and what we do here, give us a call at 773-925-1600. Make sure you go to also our CROE YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button so you can be notified whenever we come on the air. And also you can visit us at www.croe.org and go to our website, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter. I'm not sure if we're on Instagram yet. We are on Instagram, that's right. So we are. So make sure you follow us on our social media platforms so you can be made available of all the times we come on the air, all the information that we're doing, because we're here to serve you. And so on behalf of the co-founders of CROE, on behalf of the CROE television production team, I am your host, Jamil Muhammad, leaving you with the greetings of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.